Okay, what we're looking at today is this little Necchi machine, and it is a 3101. It's a free arm machine, and I picked it up pretty slow and dirty from a thrift store, but it is functional. So it just needs a good cleaning and oiling, and we'll just pull it apart, pull the top off of it. Make sure there's no big ugly gobs of anything stuck in the top, and make sure that everything's got some grease and it's all lubed up and running smoothly, and we get the lint and the considerable amount of dirt off of this machine. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a nice little machine once it doesn't have so much yuck on it. So let's just get the lint brush out and get some, and I've got my handy little lint brush here, and get some of this crud off of this machine. Now I think that previously when hey, okay, let's remove that. Previously, when I first picked this machine up, I do believe that I popped this open and just removed a great big giant rug-like ball of lint from in here, simply because I was amazed at the amount of lint, because I'm always amazed at the amount of lint that people have. Hey, I hope I remember how that goes back together. Oh, that's fun. That just popped right out of there. Always amazed at the amount of lint that people have built up inside of these. And then they're like, hey, my machine doesn't work. You think? But, you know, you grab a machine and you're like, oh, I got a project to do. The last thing you think about is cleaning your machine up to sew. So you get these gobs of lint and then nothing wants to work. So we want to check all these little, oops, where am I at? Focus. So you can see there's a gob of lint down there. So we're going to want to get rid of that. And make sure there's no little pieces of string hung in any of these little areas, because that will certainly cause problems. You will definitely have problems if you have any pieces of string hung up, or any little sharp edges, little burrs. So carefully, I have really tough fingers, so carefully rub your fingers around inside of the bobbin area and see if there's anything, you know, and do that with your bobbin case as well. Oop, I'm too zoomed in. Just make sure there's no rough spots that catch anything, because when you start catching threads, yep, you're not going to be sewing correctly. You're going to have issues. I think the number one problem. Second, you didn't thread your machine correctly. You just didn't, you know. You got some pieces of thread hung up somewhere in your, you know, main areas of where you would thread your machine. Lint, thread, or debris, or you've threaded it incorrectly. Excuse me. I think I inhaled a lint ball. Have you noticed that since we have this this social distancing and all this stuff going on, that every time you go to the grocery store, almost immediately upon entering, you will be compelled to cough. It's like you haven't coughed all day long. Suddenly you have a tickle in your throat, And you just know if you cough, everyone in the store is going to be looking at you like, oh my gosh, contaminated person with coronavirus. I think it's just like a subconscious desire to cough because you just know that it's going to freak everybody in the store out. Every time I go into the store. Or something will tickle my nose and I'll have to sneeze. And I'll think to myself, are you kidding? I haven't sneezed in 3 days and suddenly I've stopped in for a few essential items and yes, essential items because I don't go to the grocery store to entertain myself. I actually have things to do. But that's another subject. Anyway, so yeah, I won't sneeze in 3 days and then suddenly I go to the grocery store and it's like, wow, this overwhelming urge to just sneeze and just go into a sneeze fest comes over me. So it's kind of crazy. All right, let me pause this for just a second. I want to make sure I can fit these pieces back in here. And unfortunately, I don't have one of those really cool selfie sticks. But I think I'm going to steal the little thingamajig my daughter has. Until I do, I'm going to pause this and see if I can get these pieces back in here correctly. Give me just a second. Okay, so I have placed this back together. Ta-da! That was interesting to place back in there because it has just a couple of, it's kind of forked, and then the inner piece has a little tooth, if you will, that has to go between those forks, and it's kind of awkward to hold it in there while you put that outer piece on and clip it in, and it has to be centered with that little loop. You can see that little loop, and I'm going to assume that that's a string loop facing upward. This is a machine I haven't worked on before, so if I don't have it right, I will know what is wrong when it does not sew. It makes it simple. It's kind of a easy way to deduce what's going on. I like to get all the lint out of the machine before I do any cleaning with my goop because, you know, there's just no sense in making a big ball o' goop. So that's why I'm going to do the lint thing first. It makes it so much easier. Just brush some of this dust and lint off, and then that way we don't make a ball o' goop. And a lot of this stuff is relatively loose. I think that might have been a mouse dropping. How lovely! It seems like there's almost, you know, sewing machines inevitably get tossed in the bottom of a closet or something somewhere, and mouse droppings happen. So about it, anytime I pick up a machine that has been, you know, basically on its way to being, should we say, discarded, almost always have some mouse droppings. Okay, now you see there's a considerable amount of just yuck and dirt. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of goop hand cleaner on the outside of this machine. One of the things I failed to grab before I sat down here was a magic eraser, and I'm going to grab one of those really quick. Going to rub a little goop on here. I've got a rag. I think I need to grab a toothbrush because I like to be able to get in the nooks and crannies. I've got some Q-tips. I'll use those also. Give me just a second. For you, it'll be a flash. Okay, there we go. See, I told you I would be back quick. Haha, good joke, right? Alright, so I've got some goop hand cleaner. And if you haven't watched any of my videos before, I picked this up at Harbor Freight. And I just love the stuff. Here we go. This is $9.99 at Harbor Freight. This is the 4.5 pound container. They do have it in a smaller container. I don't bother with the smaller containers because, well, once you've got it and you figure out what you can clean with it. We were doing something the other day and my daughter was helping me and she had on her favorite shirt. Probably one of her favorite shirts. One of 7 of her favorite shirts. Who knows? But she really liked her shirt. And it got this big black blob of something on the front of it. And she was quite distressed. And it looked like a grease-like substance. It was really quite nasty looking. And she said, oh, my shirt, you know, it's going to be ruined. And I said, nah, we'll just get it off with some goop. And it really was quite a nasty little stain. And so we rubbed a little bit of goop on it. And it was like it never happened. It really was quite a nice stain remover. So, excuse me, worked fabulously. So I think that she was quite pleasantly surprised at how well. And it is, what is it with this was stuff? It is a white and light gray striped shirt. And it's a knit. So you can imagine that it would be a little more difficult and a little more, you know, you'd be a little more, worried that you might not get something off. Okay, you see how I've just rubbed this on? And you can see that the dirt is just starting to lift. This stuff smells good. It doesn't tear your hands up. In fact, it'll clean your hands while you're doing this. So if you have dirty hands, you know, no worries. They'll be clean when you get done. And somewhat softened, I might add. I never have had any complaints about that. It just... And I used a magic eraser to get any like scuff marks off of the machine. Because the goop gets the dirt, but the magic eraser will get the scuff marks. Alright. And the toothbrush, I'll just dab a little bit of goop into the bristles. And just kind of get in here and get these little areas that... And I'm probably going to have to use a Q-tip to get that goop out of there. I won't be able to get that off. And you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, I'm going to pause for a second so I can speed this up, wipe this down, and finish taking the goop back off of this. Okay, as you can see, the outside of the machine is cleaning up quite nicely. I had to unpause this so I didn't lose my spot. I'm multitasking, so I'm doing this and other things. You know, everybody that does videos, they do that whole fast forward through the scrubbing process, but I don't have time for that. I have a million things going on. Alright, so I'm going to continue to wipe down a few more areas. Okay, so I have removed the throat plate. And I need to get the lint out of here, which I highly suspected. And we've got a worm, looks like a worm gear. I need to try to shoot this from a different angle. Well, I'm just having a hard time. Where are we at? That is almost impossible. There we go. There we go. I can get... And let's see, what do we got for movement? There we go, see? And that looks... I'm going to need to get some grease on that. That's just quite a bit on the dry side there. It's got some old grease, but it's looking a little sparse. So we'll get that that grease back up. Clean the lint out of this all these feed dogs out from under this throat plate and then replace that. And I want to clean this track area underneath the throat plate so that you don't see that dirtiness underneath that throat plate. I just don't like to see that. All right, give me just a second. Okay, now what I'm doing is just rotating this, and I'm going to watch for little bits of string and debris. Just check and see if I've got any big nasty nests of goobers and whatnot, because we want to make sure that that area is clean and clear. That is definitely something that's going to cause you to just have some issues, as we talked about before. You don't want to have gobs of lint, string, or debris. Okay, I'm gonna blow a big poof of air in there, and I'm just not going to do that on camera. Give me a second. Okay, so now we've got this cleaned out, and if you can kind of see back through there, it's kind of hard to see. You can see the little hole here at the bottom. Kind of, excuse you, son.
Sorry.
Pardon my son, who's 9 years old and has almost zero manners. This is why I never take him out to eat, because it would be just much too embarrassing. This kind of triangular hole back through there, there was a nice little gob of lint, so I extracted that using a Q-tip because it was just kind of stuck. Now I could take all these things apart, but I think that this will be adequate. This is just going to reaccumulate, and getting it out with a brush is, you know, something that you need to do for regular maintenance. And this video I'm making is to facilitate the ability for someone to do this maintenance at home as well. Okay, so let me pause again. We're just going to continue to clean this up, and hopefully if you are the owner of one of these machines, you'll be able to see just exactly what you need to do to get one of these machines running, or to do the maintenance on it yourself. Okay, it looks like I have a low battery, so I'm going to make this a part 1. What I'll do while we're not on camera is use my magic eraser, just barely moistened in a couple of spots, and I will remove some of these areas you see here like scuffs, so this will look much better. And we'll return with part 2. Thank you for watching.